Spring has finally arrived here in northern New York, and with it comes the beginning of backpacking season. There's a lot of great new gear coming out this year. Today I'm going to be talking about the Deuter Spectro AC38 backpack, which I'm wearing right now. Deuter is a pack manufacturer that a lot of Americans are unfamiliar with, but they're actually very venerable in the field. They've been making packs since the 1800s. It's a German company, and it turns out they make really great gear. I have a lot of hiking friends who live up in Canada, and they love their Deuter bags, so I was really excited to get to test one. This is the Spectro AC38. It's a 38-liter rucksack, which is, depending on who you are, a good size for a day pack or an overnight or even a trekking bag. It all depends what you like. The neat thing about it, when I started hiking, a bag this size was probably going to weigh 5 or 6 pounds. This weighs 2 pounds 9 ounces. And while you can certainly find a lighter pack around, this one has a lot of features that are probably worth a few extra ounces. So I'd like to walk you through it. Now, over the next couple of months, I'm going to be putting the Spectro through its paces, and I'll report back to let you know how it all goes. But I'd like to introduce you to some of the things that make this pack neat. Probably the first and most obvious thing that you notice about the bag is this mesh back panel that it's got. Now, you can maybe see my hand through behind there. But there's a ton of airspace between where your back touches the pack and the actual pack body. Now, Deuter says that that gives really good ventilation, helps keep your back a little cooler and a little bit more comfortable. And I hope that's true. I'll be looking into it. The structure is provided by this nylon plastic mesh here, supported by a pair of metal spring steel supports. Actually, they may not be steel, but they're thin, but they seem pretty beefy. So this whole back panel, although it looks quite lightweight and simple, seems like it's pretty tough, so I'm looking forward to using that. The shoulder straps are not adjustable in terms of back length, but they are adjustable. They've got load lifters, they've got normal straps, and there is an adjustable sternum strap. The straps are contoured, they seem to fit pretty comfortably, and both the straps and the hip belt are made with a carved out mesh foam sort of construction that gives good ventilation. So it looks pretty good. The buckles are what are sometimes called skeleton buckles. They're like this. See that? They've got less structure, so a little bit less weight than a standard nylon buckle would have. But my experience with them is that they're fine, they work well, they're pretty durable. So throughout this pack's design, they've done some things to shed weight. So you'll notice that some of the straps are thinner than on some other packs of similar design. That's intentional because the need for strength on a pack that's going to carry 30 pounds of weight isn't necessarily all that huge. You don't need climbing webbing that'll hold 2,000 pounds. Flipping the pack around to the front side, it's got one feature that's become pretty common. It's got a stretch mesh front pocket that you can use for stashing a jacket. I often use them, since I'm a hammock camper, I use them to stash my tarp, especially if it's gotten a little bit of water on it. That's nice. You just sort of shove it in there and cinch it down. It works very nicely. It doesn't get everything else wet. We've got the standard pair of straps that'll hold down this top lid, and opening that up, it looks pretty standard. This thing that holds the front panel closed is also a rope compressor if you're a climber. Now, one thing that's a little bit unusual about this rucksack as opposed to a more standard one in the American market is that it doesn't have a spindrift collar. Now, I'm used to a pack where if you close it up, this whole front piece will be fully closed, but that's not the case on the Spectro. Even when it's fully closed, there's a little bit of a gap there. I'm a little concerned about that, mainly because I'm not fully used to using a bag like that. But I noticed that when the lid is cinched down, everything seems to stay in there pretty tightly, so it shouldn't be a big problem. Looking inside the bag, there's an orange Velcro tab here, which you can use to hold a hydration bladder. And there's, I don't know if you can see it, there's a little pocket in there, fairly standard. And on either side, there are little ports for your hydration tube to leave the bag. So it's very versatile, whether you like to use a tube over your right shoulder or your left. The rest of the inside of the bag is pretty simplistic. There are not a lot of pockets, there aren't lots of doodads and things in there, because they're trying to save weight. So, you know, you can have a look in there, but there's not a lot going on inside the bag. It's basically a tough, durable sack with a good suspension system. But there's a little bit more to it than that. If you look at it in side profile, you may see that that sort of back panel is great because it gives me lots of ventilation, but it does carve a lot of space out of the inside of the bag, which can make it hard to see things that are down inside the bottom of the main sack. Now, Deuter has taken care of that by making this what's called a hybrid loader. It has the normal top-loading bag, but there's also a U-shaped zipper that allows me just to open up the whole inside of the bag and reach right down in there. Now, when I first saw packs like that, I thought they were kind of gimmicky, but let me tell you how I use them. I have a pack like this that I've used for years when I'm hiking in the wintertime. I do a lot of winter mountaineering, and my pack, even though it's a 40-liter bag at that point, is usually pretty stuffed with emergency gear, and sometimes I just need the thing that's right in the bottom. It's really convenient, especially in deep powder snow, not to have to take everything out of my bag just to get the one thing that's down there in the bottom corner. So, you know, I'm kind of sold on the hybrid loader thing. Now, people often are concerned about the durability of zippers. This seems like a very durable zipper. I don't know if I've ever had a zipper blow out on anything, but people seem to worry about it. So, two pieces of advice for that. First off, it's a double pull zipper. Just leave them at the top rather than down at the very bottom. That'll help keep things from falling out. And then finally, Deuter has provided these two little locking buckles to support, using a tab, support that so that the main load isn't coming onto the zipper. So if that's something that you're concerned about, just make sure that you buckle the tabs. Now these little buckles have a little bit of extra room on them. I think that's probably so you could stash a jacket under there or something else that you wanted. Not entirely sure what they're for, but it's kind of up to you. A lot of people use trekking poles, and you may have noticed there's some bandages on my knee. I'm a knee-injured person, so I'm a trekking pole user right now. But you don't always want them, especially if you're going on a trail that's a little steeper. So Deuter has provided a pair of little elastic loops down here at the bottom for your trekking poles to go into, and then at the top you just affix them with a pretty standard little mechanism like that. I like this because it's simple, it's durable, and it's lightweight, and it looks like one that I've used for years that works fine with gloves, so that's good if you plan to use this as a winter bag. On the other side, there's a standard loop for an ice axe and another similar attachment point here. Now note, there is not an ice axe loop on both sides, so if you're an ice climber, this may not be the best pack choice. But for somebody who's doing mountaineering, great choice. It's a nice big enough bag where you can fit a lot of stuff in there, and it's got attachments for a lot of the useful things. For people who like to use water bottles, there are elastic pockets here on the side. Now, I'm also a hydration bladder user because I feel like I actually drink more water when I have a tube. So I plan to test out how that works on this bag. But whatever your choices are, it seems to work pretty well, and there are compression straps going over these side pockets to make sure your gear doesn't fall out. And there is indeed one of those on both sides. There's a top pocket here on the lid. The lid is not detachable, which saves a little bit of weight on straps. It's like everything else. It's a simple, durable bag. It's got a key clip, which I like because I tend to drive to the trailhead. But other than that, it's not a pack that seems like it has a lot of bells and whistles. It seems more like it's just designed to do a good job carrying stuff, you know, without a lot of fuss. I like the fact that you can get into this stretch pocket without having to undo all the lid and everything like that. Just to show you now that you've seen that side mesh thing, I'll put it on here. Look at how much space there is between my back and the pack fabric. There's a lot of room for air in there. And that's a really good thing if, like me, you're a person who tends to sweat while you're backpacking. So that's an introduction to the Deuter Spectro AC38. Looks like a neat bag. I'm looking forward to getting out on trail with it. Hope you'll check back and see how it goes.